Broads Media.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome on into Sports Talk with Broads. We made it through the most difficult 48 hours. We blasted through the first week. We knew it would be a really brutal Saturday and Sunday. There wasn't much sports on, NHL, whatever you want to call that skills competition, the Pro Bowl, the Sixers lost in New York. There wasn't much to grab on. Honestly, this is the weekend that you pay back your significant other. This is the weekend where your wife or your whoever it is going to be getting a big payday. You're going on date night. You're doing things they want to do because we know Sundays come along throughout the fall and it's nothing but commercial-free football. It's nothing but hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of grown men tackling each other onto the ground. And there's nothing we want more in life than more of that, right? So this is the weekend. For us, we went out and got a nice sushi date at Sagami's. If you're a South Jersey lad, Sagami's is fantastic. Some sushi, it was solid. After that, we went to Landmark for the rowing people out there. Took down some cold ones. And then we went home and enjoyed our Saturday night. Sunday came along, took care of some family stuff. By around 3 o'clock, we were on the couch, relaxing. We grinded through Are You the One? Nothing better than terrible trash reality television. But I'll tell you what, I can't believe Malcolm cheated on Andrea with another woman. And I was going, you gotta be kidding me. Malcolm, you dog. But anyway, I digress. There's one more thing we need to touch on before we get into some football. And I do have some interesting stuff to kind of go over. What I wanted to do, because let's be honest, it's not time to go full on X's and O's yet. It's not time to break down every single angle of this game on the football field. It's Monday, and I'm just proud that we are here. Seriously, we made it out alive, and now the hours start to tick because we seriously are getting close, and the adrenaline is starting to pump. This is the time where that happens, at least for me. The first week, you know you have to battle, but it's so far away, you're not ready yet. Once you turn the page and it's on to the official week and you see beat reporters and a ton of media members down at wherever the complex is, so you're seeing all sorts of video footage of the planes coming in, the planes landing. The Chiefs arrive in Arizona and you watch the guys walk off of the plane. You see the crowd that was at the Eagles spot where they were going to leave to fly to Arizona. That place was packed. That place was mobbed. People were out tailgating, getting shit-faced and shotgunning beers. It was insane. It was incredible. But that's how much we're ready to rock. Once you flip that page, though, it's a whole new lifestyle and it's a whole new focus. The 49ers continue to run their mouth. Ayuk is saying that, oh, man, we saw holes that we think the 49ers are going to expose. Or Hassan Reddick. Or your coach once again. That coach is such a loser. And I told myself that it's time to forget about it. It's time to be in game mode. It's time to worry about the Kansas City Chiefs. The 49ers thing is in the past. But I just have one more statement. I promise you this will be my final one. Kyle Shanahan, based off the way that his players have responded to this loss, shows me he's a poor leader. And not only that, Brian Baldinger did a beautiful job breaking it down on Twitter like he always does. Not only did he ask a tight end who was inactive the week before in a win-or-go-home type of game against the Dallas Cowboys to block Hassan Reddick, which then led to the UCL tear of Brock Purdy, but he double-teamed Lvii Joseph on the play too. And they were doing nothing. He's a run stopper. He doesn't get home. He's not rushing you to death. He's there to stop the run. The way they double-teamed Lvii Joseph and asked an inactive tight end the week before to block Hassan Reddick, you can't make up this level of stupidity. But it doesn't surprise me that because of watching Kyle Shanahan break down, the rest of his team is doing it too. Ayuk can't control himself. It's just comical. But enough about that, because it's more about the here and now. We're done with that. We tore up that nonsense. We might have grabbed onto it last week to get us through a long week. But now, after that, it's closed. I'm closing the door, I promise you. But we have some things to kind of look at today. I printed out some articles because I'm curious what others are thinking out there. What are the matchup points that others are looking at? I searched Pro Football Network. I searched Clutch Points. And there's a billion more, obviously, that maybe we'll kind of look at throughout the days and throughout all the shows we're going to do. But I have two here. We have your calls to also get to. But, oh, yeah, I need to address this. It may look, if you're watching this on YouTube, there are other platforms, by the way. Apple Podcasts, if you can leave a rating and a review, that would mean the world to me. Spotify, Google Podcast, all your podcasting platforms. So make sure you take Broads on the road with you. There's nothing better than getting stuck in traffic and Broads is just talking your ear off about what's happening in the Philadelphia sports world. I promise it doesn't get much better than that. But if you're watching on YouTube, you see you got a yellow crew neck on and a maroon headband. It may resemble the Kansas City Chiefs. Maybe not the exact same colors, but if that went into your head prior to me saying this, I thought about it too. Now, I didn't realize it until I sat down and looked at the camera and said, okay, it's go time. And at that point, I wasn't getting up to go upstairs to wake up the wife and wake up the dogs and have to deal with them barking and then maybe getting yelled at. Yeah, what are you doing? I'm trying to sleep here. I got work in the morning. All right. Sorry, I had to change my headband because I didn't want people thinking I was rooting for the Chiefs. Anyway, we all have those clothes that when you come home from work, they're laying at the edge of your bed. Now, we have one of those things that folds up at the foot of our bed and our dogs use it to jump up. And that's where I lay out the sweatpants for the hangout sessions at home, the hoodie, and this is one of my go-tos. It just so happened that the headband was near me, and I picked that one up. I don't care. I don't care if it looks like 49ers. I'm so damn confident about the Eagles and this football team that there's nothing. There's no jinx. There's no, oh, you think too highly of this team. I should feel highly of this team. They were the number 1 seed. They won 14 games. So did the Chiefs. That's why this is going to be entertaining as hell. That's why this is going to be extremely fun. Andy Reid. Experience. Nick Sirianni. Not so much yet. What is this week going to be like? As much as you say it's another week, but when you're actually there, does it get overwhelming? Can you prepare the same way? Is it too eye-opening? I heard on NFL Network that the Chiefs made their entire complex that they're staying at and their offices that they all get, they made them exactly the way that they are in Kansas City. So when they're going through their progressions in the week, it truly does feel like just another week. You can say that all you want, but I just feel you see the banners. You're wearing all the new gear you got. You know how important this game is for your legacy. Jalen Hurts can get a Super Bowl this early into his career. Who would have thought? The day we saw Jalen Hurts pop up on the draft at the bottom of your screen when you paid Carson Wentz, this was definitely not the thought that was going to automatically happen. And you see with even Pat Mahomes, you never know when you get back. I'm sure we thought Pat Mahomes would have more by now. I'm sure we thought Pat Mahomes would be in the Super Bowl every single season. He's always knocking at the door if he's not winning it. But I'm just saying, you can't let these chances slip. So you can pretend it's another week, and it's probably the right way to go about it. I'm saying more or less that we're humans. And you can trick the mind and try to do all that, which is probably the right way to do it. Because you start emphasizing how big the game is, pressure starts to loom, you overthink some things. Do what got you here. Be you. Be the same team that won all those football games. And that's kind of how you have to go about your business. But I also know that I've done things that I knew was bigger than others. And when you're doing it, you go, oh, okay, this is bigger. This isn't the same, but it's a whole feel-out process. Once the ball gets kicked off and you're 4 or 5 minutes in, then the human nature side of you're comfortable out here. This is your security blanket. This has always been your safety zone. I know for a fact the moments I tied up my skates and went out on the ice, everything else in the world didn't matter. Schoolwork, what was going on in real life, relationship stuff, everything. It just went away, poof. So it's really just talking about the anticipation of getting to that football game. I can't wait, though, man. I really can't. All right, I guess we can kind of look at clutch points here. So clutch points had three things to talk about. Their first is Chiefs quarterback Patrick Mahomes and taking a look at his health. Now, it says Philadelphia has 78 sacks this season, including the playoffs. That's the second most in NFL history. The Eagles had 4 different players post double-digit sacks in the regular season. Hassan, Hargrave, Josh Sweat, Brandon Graham. That's outrageous. Now, Mahomes and his ankle. He's one of those guys. Now, I get it. The margin right now with the error, both of these teams are crazy good. I know some are trying to spit it out there that Philadelphia isn't, and their schedule was bad, and it was a miracle ride because they didn't have to play anyone. No. The Eagles are fantastic, and you just either hate the Eagles or don't want to admit that they are a juggernaut. They're a team, a full-on team in every aspect. And they're so secure in every spot. And to be this healthy at this time of the year, as you just look across the way, because it's not just Pat Mahomes. Wide receivers. It's a lot. So to be where the Eagles are right now, it's incredible. Part of me goes like this, though, with Pat Mahomes. It doesn't matter because he's so special that plays are made. Whether he's hobbling, whether he's not, whether the ankle feels great or the ankle's causing him some serious problems. Now, this is where I go back to that type of stuff can be the difference, though, when Hassan's chasing you. It can be the difference, though, when the win rate of this defensive line is scary. When you have 78 sacks, including the postseason. So I'm torn. Obviously, health at the quarterback position is a huge focus. But when has that stopped Pat Mahomes? When has he played this defense? Not very often. Not this defense. At the same time, who stops Pat Mahomes? I just feel that he's a player, 100% or 60%. He just finds ways to stay competitive. He finds ways to be involved in games. And he wins a lot of them, too. Another season for the Chiefs where they just cruise to 14 wins. You expect it at this point. And when they do it, you don't even flinch. You don't even blink at it. It's easy. It's smooth. And I got to respect that he's a big key part to that happening. But yeah, definitely something to monitor. The 2 weeks, though, is big. But it's also big for one Jalen Hurts. Some are trying to draw the correlation of the shoulder injury to maybe not throwing the football as well as we've been used to against San Francisco. I'll be honest. I just thought it was a bad day. I think Jalen Hurts is fine. Banged up, yeah. Everyone's banged up this late. There's no one who's at 100%. Every single player out there is feeling something. All right? Sometimes you don't play well. You don't throw the ball well. As much as I rip the 49ers, they do have talented players on that defense. Their linebackers are no joke. Plays were there to be made, and Jalen Hurts didn't make those plays in the passing game. But I don't think it was shoulder related. I watched him throw dimes against the Giants. I watched him make good throws since coming back. And I know it's there. Just didn't think he played well. I feel fine about his status in this matchup. All right, so number 2 on clutch points list. The Eagles' ground game versus the Chiefs' front 7. Everyone knows that the Eagles like to run the football. They finished the regular season 5th in rushing, but so much of what they do offensively works off of that as well. The 49ers were the second best in the league at stopping opposing running games, but obviously Philadelphia did what they needed to. They scored 4 times when running the football. The Chiefs' front seven is more impactful than San Francisco was. At the same time, Jones, who's a stud and can wreck games, has the ability to. Think of the difference between Hassan Reddick's matchup and Jones's matchup. I respect a lot of teams who can cause a lot of havoc, who can constantly get to the other team's quarterback. But I got to base it off of what I've seen with this Eagles team. And they haven't allowed an opponent to whoop them so badly that the offensive line is in shambles. It's just so rare. What, was there one game where they had 1 billion penalties? But that doesn't count. That's not really who they are. That was an uh-oh game. Everyone has an uh-oh game. A regular season whoops. And I don't even remember which game that was. Was that the same game against the Washington? I don't even think it was. I'm going to Google it. Because they might have even won that game. Eagles offensive line penalties. Let's see here. I could have sworn it was like 1 billion. All right, hold on. It was the first time in 17 years the Eagles have allowed 6 sacks, and the O-line committed 6 penalties. Which game was this? It's the first time they allowed that many. They allowed 7 to the Packers at Lambeau late in the 2020 season. The last time they allowed that many at home was against the Patriots in 2003. What was this? Oh, yeah, that was Gardner Minshew. Okay. Yeah, you don't think there's a correlation between Jalen Hurts playing football and Gardner Minshew playing football, and Gardner Minshew in this offense allowing that many snaps and, that many sacks? Come on now. I knew there was something in there. But this defensive line that the Chiefs have, they are respectful. They should be respected. I am respectful of what they can do. But I've said this a lot this season. It's less about the opponent, and it's more about what I believe Lane Johnson, Jason Kelsey, Dickerson, and Mailata can do. I definitely destroy Pro Football Focus a lot, but their rankings on what these offensive linemen have been doing is ridiculous. And it doesn't matter if you can stop the run or not if you're an opposing team. Because of what this offensive line does to you, it's irrelevant. You're going to not be good enough. And that doesn't mean by the end of the night, the Eagles ran for 5 yards per carry, because that didn't happen against San Fran, statistically. But the feel of the game and the flow of the game was in cruise mode because of how many times they ran that football and kept the chains moving, by how they led with their strengths. A lot of the times you look at an opposing team's weakness and you say, how can we expose that? But then there's other times where I go, it doesn't matter what the other team is good or bad at because of what you excel in. You could throw the best defensive line in football against the Eagles. Well, the thing is, we have the best defensive line in football. So you could throw the second best, and you will lose. So stay true to you, and don't let the other team dictate how you want to go. Now, you also are so good in the pass game and in the run game that you can take advantage of this young secondary, I believe, and you can run on them. You can do both, and that's the beauty here. And that's the ding, 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 ding matchup of the game for me, which we'll expand on. Now, the question becomes, if Kansas City can score at a crazy rate, do you find yourself in a shootout? And can you win a shootout against Pat Mahomes and Travis Kelce? It might be how you have to. I'm going to butcher this stat because I don't remember it fully. But the stat that was brought up on The Fanatic, the premise was, if you try and milk the clock and play the possession game against the I keep saying the 49ers. I might have screwed up earlier saying their name, meaning the Chiefs. I don't even remember. It just happens so much at this point for some dumb reason. The Chiefs, though, if you want to do what the Washington football team did, the Commanders, against the Eagles and play the possession game, it doesn't work out. Seriously, you just don't win that way. The Chiefs win because of how quickly they can score more times than not. It takes you too long to get down the field. Doesn't mean it won't work now. They have lost some games. The disparity is monstrous, though. They win way, 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 way more than they don't, but they do have a handful of losses, just remembering the general consensus of the stat. I know this is a terrible way to explain it because I don't remember it fully. But the moral of the story is you get into a shootout that might be better, just statistically speaking, than the possession game. But the possession game is part of the Eagles' strengths. But so is the passing game and hitting A.J. Brown and Devontae. A.J. hasn't popped off this postseason yet. And you know he's hungry to, and you know he wants to. I mean, they dominated a game earlier in the playoffs against the Giants, and he was like, yo, dude, I want the football more. And speaking of, that's the last point in this article. The Kansas City cornerbacks versus A.J. Brown. The Chiefs not only banged up in the wide receiver department against the Bengals, but their secondary was also hit. Talking about some cornerback play with Snead, who suffered a head injury. And then, some of their young players. But the passing game, I thought would come up big last week or in the NFC Championship game, and it was more of the run. I think they're going to be a part of the outlier of the stat with possession game. I think they are. I think we'll see shots of Andy Reid on the sidelines with Pat Mahomes waiting to get on the football field. That wouldn't surprise me. I'm just saying. All right, and with Pro Football Network, their one big hot topic was Andy Reid and Spags, who were fighting for history. Yeah, you think about the coaching matchup. I love Sirianni. I like Steichen. And I like Gannon. You heard that correctly. And I like Gannon. But at this point, Andy Reid gets the nod. He's one of the best coaches in NFL history. Doesn't mean he doesn't make mistakes. He can make mistakes. Doesn't mean he can't lose a football game. He can lose a football game. But most of the time, this year, one of my big key takeaways when looking at a matchup was you have a huge advantage coaching. Kyle Shanahan, I took Nick Sirianni and Steichen all day long. All day long. I don't believe in Kyle Shanahan. In fact, I took a bigger jump backwards with him just by, one, malpractice. Two, the way his team has been speaking about the loss. No accountability whatsoever. It's atrocious. Just atrocious. And against the Giants, I like Dable. But the way Nick Sirianni has this team playing this year, I give him a lot of credit. I want to defend something I said in the last show about Nick Sirianni. Because I stated that you have veteran players in the locker room that allow Nick to be Nick. And I don't know if it necessarily has the same impact if you have a lot of youth in the locker room compared to the experience that we really love and appreciate and all the guys who have been here and won before. With that said, though, that doesn't knock Nick. The whole preaching the love thing and connecting and being a family, that worked heavily. Taking a step back and being more of a CEO of the entire team and letting guys run their side of the football and not micromanaging too much and say, hey, I hired you to be an OC. Call the plays. JG, you're a part of the defense. I'm overlooking it all. The team has responded to every message he has sent. The flower, the growing, the plant. We mocked it. It worked. All the videos that he shows, and we hear John Clark report it, of NBC Sports Philly. I was told before the game, Nick Sirianni showed highlights of them when they were playing football in high school. And think about what you were thinking of when wanting to make the NFL. You're now here. Go out there. All that stuff every week. He had some pretty impressive ones. Some, I'm like, Others, I'm like, yeah. If I was watching highlights of me playing junior hockey when I'm in the NHL getting ready for Stanley Cup Game 7, and my coach goes, you know you dreamed of this moment. You know how much time you spent thinking you'd be here. You know how many times you were in the driveway with 4 seconds to go and the puck was coming backdoor and you buried it to win Game 7 at home for the fans to go wild. Well, you have a chance to do that. That stuff works. And he's pushed all the right buttons. And let's not act like he doesn't have a huge part to the strategy either just because he doesn't call the plays. He's got his fingerprints all over this offense. So, it sounded like a dig at him because he's different. And I'm saying it's allowed because of Fletcher and Brandon and other studs. But that's how this league works. Andy Reid is fantastic. You need players in the room that help send a message from coach to players and from players to coach. Every locker room has that. But yeah, if Nick Sirianni's in Houston, does it look the same or work the same? But as you see, every coach seems to struggle there, I guess. And shout out to Miko Ryans because I hope he excels there tremendously. But anyway, I digress. I just wanted to clean that up and make it clear that that doesn't mean he can't be special at his job because I credited a lot of players to allowing this to work. Sirianni's grown up. I've seen improvements from him. Last year, he wore the Beat Dallas shirt during Dallas week. You know what he did this year? Acted like it wasn't a big deal at all. Why? Because I think last year they were looking for that motivation. And he was a very raw coach. And he thought maybe that would play. This year, he saw the team winning, had a bigger goal in mind, was focusing on the long term, even though they say one day better, and they say 1 week at a time, and they do feel that way. I think that was a big, important message, which worked with this room, which worked. But when Dallas came around, it was less about Dallas and more about themselves. It was less about Dallas and them improving for the vision of the bigger goal by taking it 1 week at a time, but not because of anything Dallas, not because of anything NFC East, not because of anything with the rivalry, but because of us. Us as a family, us as a team. So I've seen Sirianni take those steps and improve as a coach with some of the goofiness. So, always on the job. All these guys. And even the coaches as they learn. Can the Eagles replicate the Buccaneers' 31-9 win in Super Bowl, whatever Roman numeral that is? Not even going to try for it. It says here, once again, this is Pro Football Network. There are several similarities between 2020 Bucs and 2022 Eagles that don't bode well for the Chiefs. Tampa Bay relied on the deep array of pass rushers and physical secondary to slow Mahomes and the young Chiefs, forcing 2 interceptions, 11 penalties, and 3 sacks. That version of the Chiefs had a better running game, but excuse me, this version of the Chiefs has a better running game, but has felt the loss of Tyreek Hill to the receiving core. All right. The Eagles have a historically good pass rush. That's the second article to talk about how absurd it is. Their 4.1 sacks per game make the Chiefs, who are number 2 at 3.3 sacks per game, pale in comparison. And the last one here, how do the Chiefs slow down Jalen Hurts? Great question. Their defense ranked 16th in EPA against the pass and against the run. A mediocre defensive performance against Jalen Hurts and his impressive surrounding cast won't get the job done unless Mahomes has the game of a lifetime. How about that? I love it, man. Challenging Hurts will be the key. The efficient dual threat opens rushing lanes for Sanders and does a good job finding star receiver A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. The Chiefs have to hope that Brown has a third straight game under 30 receiving yards. I find that very, 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 very hard to believe. The Philadelphia Eagles were able to grind out 6 wins where Hurts completed 60% or fewer of his passes, so they're not entirely dependent on him being a star to win. Yep, no doubt. I mean, seriously, we've seen plenty of games this year where you go back to the stat sheet and Hurts is getting mocked and laughed at because he didn't throw for 500 yards. He didn't throw for 300 yards. He went 13 of 17 and he only finished with 182 yards, whatever it is, right? It's like, he didn't even do that well. Stop it. It's never about that with Jalen. Watch the football game. His impact is watch the damn football game and you'll see it. Stopping the Birds is difficult. They're able to win at every level. It starts with that elite offensive line. I was trying to tell people for weeks, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? All right, I rambled more than I thought I would without taking any calls. So I'm going to hold off on the calls and use them this week. And if you haven't called in and want to share your thoughts just as we're moving along here, 856-442-9805. You're more than welcome to. I actually prefer it. I want to hear what you got to say. It's really just how you feeling. What's the pulse? What are you thinking? You know? So, all right. It's my Monday get back into football mode show. We're getting there. We're getting there. Thank you all so much. I love you. Catch you on the next show.